And hello again. Welcome to the Marc Oslar Retirement Experience. Hope you're having a great weekend. This is a show where we sit down here and talk about you and your future. We talk about the whole idea of you somewhere along the line. You're going to walk away from the desk. You're going to walk away from the cubicle. You're going to walk away from whatever you do, the classroom or whatever it is. And you're going to go into this thing called retirement. And, you know, maybe you've done a really great job of saving and everything, but there's so many twists and turns to all this with the taxes and the markets and the estate planning. And, oh, my gosh, there's so many boxes to check off. That's why we have this show. And Marc Oslar's been helping people along those lines for an awfully long time. Marc, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm great, Randy. You know, it's a wonderful weekend we've got here. You know, I think you and I are both football fans in general, right?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. So we know this weekend is the Super Bowl. And I mentioned before, I probably said this in the past as well. In college football, I'm a Miami Hurricane football fan, and boy, they got pretty close, but not good enough to that undefeated Indiana team. But this weekend, the Super Bowl, you got the Patriots, who kind of came out of left field. Nobody expected them to have that losing record to that high of a winning record with Drake May, and we're in the area of the Carolina area, and he's a darn good quarterback. And then, of course, we've got the Seattle Seahawks. Well, nobody really saw that coming either, but Sam Darnold's had a great year. So it's really interesting to see what's going to happen in the Super Bowl, right?
It truly is. Absolutely is. You know, and Marc and I were talking before the show here, just saying, you know, when people come in at this time of the year, what are they looking for? And you mentioned fresh start as that, you know, sometimes we put stuff off and then the calendar page changes and you go, okay, this year I'm going to get this done. I'm going to actually talk to somebody about my retirement. And that if that's your reason to come in and do it, that's great. Marc, tell me about what the conversation is. I mean, are we starting from scratch here? Do many people come in and they already have an advisor, or are they looking to you? They hear you on the radio, they see you on TV, and they go, okay, let me sit down with this guy and see what he's all about.
Yeah, you know, it's funny you bring this up. So, yeah, current clients, they like to start to talk to me at the end of the year and January, and some of them will float in January, but a lot of them are starting to come in February, and that's a very common thing that you see, and that's what I encourage is, hey, if you're my client, come on in, let's have a conversation, let's review everything, let's make sure we're up to speed and up to date, because we want to keep your plan up and current and running, right? But then we've got other folks that have been listening to me for 6 or 12 months or a year and a half, wherever long it's been, or maybe you've seen my commercials on television, and you want to get to know me a little bit better. Well, this is the perfect time to do that. You know, just come in. I'm not going to charge you for an appointment. I would love to meet you, greet you, shake your hand. Even if you want to do it over Zoom, fantastic as well, but you can see my face. We can have a conversation. And I'd love to get to know you and try to understand what you want to accomplish with your retirement portfolio.
Yeah, we all wonder if we've done enough. Have we saved enough? Is there something we're missing? And these are all really good questions. And to do that and have that conversation, it takes a little math. And Marc needs a little information. And that is a no-cost, no-obligation appointment. We offer that every week here. And all you have to do is go to the website, which is moreToRetire.com. There's a place for you to put some information in there. And Marc and the team will reach out to you and say, okay, what's on your mind? What can we help you with? What questions can we answer? What concerns do you have? Or just give them a call at 984-300-1984. 984-300-1984. Now, this first story that we're going to start off with today, you've heard us talk about this before on many occasions, because when you go to financial media, you go to Google, you go to Market Watch, wherever you go, Yahoo Finance, you're going to see stories about how much people have saved and what the financial industry says you should save for retirement. The current number is somewhere between $1.2 and $1.8 million. So I'm going to go right there in the middle at 1.5. And the one thing about that is whenever they put these things out, Marc, they never consider your Social Security check. They just figure what you've saved, we're going to take a 4% pull off of that money, and it's going to last for 25 years. This is how much you need. But I found an article that took Social Security into consideration. These numbers are crazy to me. Okay, they say if you spend $5,000 a month, which is pretty typical for a retiree, they say you'll need to save $1.5 million. It'll last 20 years. But if you factor in one $2,000 Social Security check, that's the average, that savings number goes down to $880,000. It almost gets cut in half. If you have a couple and they both have $2,000 Social Security check, get this, The savings number now goes down to $300,000. So those are amazing numbers to me, Mark, because we hear nothing but you need to save $1 million. Maybe you don't. And I mean, this is why we say, let's do your retirement math, isn't it?
It is. And to be honest with you, I do have some clients out there that have retired on $300,000 before. It's not typical or common, but I would say typical or common. I see clients that are retiring with between $600 to $1 million consistently. It's absolutely possible. And I think it could be probable if you just share with me enough information so I can understand exactly what you want to accomplish. If you just want to retire, like if you just literally want to retire with a certain amount of money, I'm sure we can put a pen to the paper and actually figure it out and discuss it and talk about it. Most folks don't even realize that when they come to see me that they actually could retire. And those are the conversations we love to have. As a matter of fact, and I take into account Social Security, but then what I do is I pull it back. We'll peel it back 20 or 30% because we want to make sure that just in case they don't fix the trust fund, that we don't get that reduction. But because obviously if they don't fix the trust fund for Social Security, everybody's Social Security could be reduced by 20 or 30%. I don't want to see that happen. All right. So the point is, why not factor that in and then play with the rest of the numbers? And that's the conversations we have here, Randy.
And one of the things you hear regularly is, hey, if you've saved $500,000 for retirement, come on in. And that's why you hear that, is because when you put your Social Security with about $500,000, that is where it really starts getting real. It starts getting powerful. You start to see tax planning kind of kick in, and you see Social Security planning kick in, and all of that. That's where that's why people say that number. And we're going to say that to you today. If you've saved for retirement and you have between $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 or more, and you're going to get a couple Social Security checks, come in. Let's do your retirement math and figure this out. What if the answer to you is, hey, green light, thumbs up, you could retire tomorrow if you wanted to. And now you go back to work with a whole new attitude. And we want to put you in that position of power. Give Mark a call. Let's do your retirement math. Figure out what it's going to take to get you retired. More2retire.com is the website. More2retire.com or 984-300-1984. 984-300-1984. That really just triggers a conversation as to how can we help, what's got you bugged, what got you concerned. Let's get you some answers. Again, 984-300-1984. Well, once you've saved your money for retirement, where do you put it? What buckets do you put in? How much do you put in the stock market? How much do you put here? How much do you put there? And how much do you have in cash on the sidelines? Warren Buffett is a guy that we've gone to many times. He was doing an interview with CNBC. He said this about cash.
Cash is that way. You always need to have it available because you do not know what will happen. I do not know what the stock market will do.
In that interview, he said, I'd rather have an investment that was worth billions of dollars than cash that was worth billions of dollars. But he said cash is very important to have. When you create a plan, Mark, what do people want? I bet it's kind of subjective. This makes me feel good. That makes me feel good. What do you see? How much cash do people want?
Yeah, so it's really, some clients come to me and they tell me how much cash they want on the sidelines. And sometimes I tell them they need more cash on the sideline.
Okay.
It could go both ways. Truthfully, it's important because as they say, cash is king, right? So the problem that most folks inherit is that what if they have debt? So we have this conversation of debt versus finances, debt versus what you've grown your money to. And then we're preparing for how do you pay off that debt? But when we get to the point where we need liquidity, boy, is that important. Mm-hmm. It's so important. Mm-hmm. Okay, so let me give you an example. All right, so let's say somebody opens up a brokerage account with me. And in our when we're using a custodian, we'll use Fidelity Investments. So let's say you open up that account with me and you don't have any liquid money in the bank. Well, you better be darn tootin'. I'm probably going to be having you putting some money just sitting there in the money market account because it's important. It's important to have that liquidity. Now, what I will say is this, that if you're investing with us in the market, if you have money sitting in the money market account and we pick, a ticker symbol that pays you at least a decent amount of interest, so it sits there and accumulates some interest during that time, that when we're doing these things, it's a part of your overall planning. It's very important, but we don't charge for the money that's just sitting there in money market. We're not going to charge a fee for that. That just sits there for you as liquidity. We'll set up standing instructions, make sure just in case you need the money. All right. But we do charge a fee for the money we invest. Of course, that's on the fiduciary standard of care of the business. And then, of course, we do all the insurance products. So annuities, life insurance. I'm licensed for long-term care. I don't write a whole lot of traditional long-term care. But all of this matters in terms of planning. But liquidity is huge. You got to have some money sitting on the sidelines. And I'll say this. Liquidity is maybe not as important when you have enough income too. So I have some clients that have so much income in retirement that it's way more than their expenses, that they are bundling it up in the bank. And then sometimes they kind of sift it out and put it in different places because they end up becoming liquid no matter what happens, just simply because they have so much more income than expenses. But that's not typical. So having liquidity, having money available. I just had a conversation with a client the other day, and they have a lot of money sitting in the bank. They were asking me, different ways of what they could do so they don't have to pay so much in taxes on the interest they're getting and all of that stuff. And I said, well, look, I'm not going to sit here and give you advice about this, that, and the other, but let me just share with you that a non-qualified fixed annuity or fixed index annuity is going to grow tax deferred. Okay. So if you understand that just means you're not going to see that 1099 on that money at the end of the year, right? So it's important to understand what you're getting taxed on, what you're not getting taxed on. And that's why it's important to understand what makes the most sense for you for your liquid position too. And Randy, when it comes down to it, and we've had this conversation in the past, having good income makes a big difference. We talk about three things on the show: preservation, income, and growth. And we talked about the previous segment where somebody could retire on $300,000 or $500,000. Well, we stick to the same motto: preservation, preserve what you worked your whole life for. Income, what's a good, sensible income, and how can you prepare for taxes, and how can you prepare for inflation? And growth, what's a good, sensible growth in retirement? So these are really paramount when we're trying to get somebody to say, hey, you can retire.
Mark, when people say they want a certain amount of cash, let's just say $50,000 in an account for an emergency or something like that, why do people want cash? Probably the answer that comes back is, I want money that I can just grab onto at a moment's notice. So with things like CDs and money markets and ETFs and different investments, things like that, do they have a lot of liquidity where I could say to you, Mark, I'm going to need this amount of money in a week. Can you get me that money? And even in some of these things that we're talking about here, there is liquidity. You can still get to that money. It's not like it's locked up.
That's right. So let's say, for example, I send you over to your local bank, right? And I say, look, open up a money market with them. They might have a minimum that you have to keep in there, but you could withdraw that. If you don't have another bank account over there, like a checking account, a lot of times you might just take a withdrawal from a check and then put it in your other checking account. If you have an online one, usually you can attach your checking account and shift that over. A CD, you can go to the bank and negotiate with them, especially if you've been there for a long time. People say, I'm going to pay penalty. Maybe, maybe not. Sometimes banks like to negotiate. I'm not telling you that that's going to happen, but talk to them, have a conversation with them. And then with us, if we have a brokerage account and we have you sitting in the money market and a decent ticker symbol that has a decent interest rate, then if we set up standing instructions ahead of time when we set up the account, you call me and say, hey, Mark, I need some money. We just hit the old, hey, let's get you the money over there. And usually within a few days, you've got the money sitting in your account ready to go. So do you need to have it in green cash? No. In that fiat currency, please don't do that. We've seen what gold and silver are doing. Don't carry that cash around.
You're listening to the Marc Oslar Retirement Experience online. Find Mark at moretoretire.com. Just spell that right out, moretoretire.com. As you go through the website, you're going to see the 5 steps to more. We'll go through that today, and it'll kind of tell you what happens when you go see Mark and just talk about, just talking through what you've done to save for retirement, what that means to you income-wise, how he can help as you move through. Go through that, and then at the bottom of the page there, you'll see a place where you can put some information in and say, hey, I'd like to talk about my retirement, or I'm really concerned about Social Security, or I've got a tax problem. I got all my money's in 401ks. Okay, let's just start right there. Give Mark a look, moreToRetire.com, or you can just call him 984-300-1984. 984-300-1984. That is a no-cost, no-obligation meeting to sit down and talk about your retirement. Okay, there's a lot of people who are retiring. As a matter of fact, the number now is up to 4 million people a year are retiring. The baby boomers are moving their way out of the workplace, and all of us want income, which is why annuity sales have been going through the roof. They've been setting records every year for the past couple of years. A lot of people don't know about annuities, or they've heard something negative about them. This is Andy Reid at Morningstar talking about some of the reactions that people have about annuities.
Everybody loves the concept of annuities, but they don't love annuities themselves, right? The annuity is like a 4-letter word. So when you ask people, do you want guaranteed income that will never run out? Yeah, sure. Do you want regular paychecks to sustain your spending in retirement? Yeah, sure. Sounds great. Do you like Social Security? Yeah, sure. Do you want to buy an annuity? Oh, no, I don't want to buy an annuity. No, zero interest.
We hear this all the time. I don't like what it's called. I just like what it does. Okay, well, let's just call it something else then. I don't know what we're going to do. I'm sure that you've talked about annuities on the show before, and the up and the down and the positive and the negative and the pros and the cons of what people feel about it. So this, I'm sure, comes up in the conference room. This is a solution to part of your problem, although you don't like it. What do we do at that point, Mark? How's the conversation go?
I just had this conversation the other day, Randy. I mean, the guy just told me flat out, I just don't want an annuity.
Okay.
I said, okay. Now, I have some clients that don't have annuities, right?
Mm-hmm.
I do. It doesn't make me feel good when I go to sleep at night because we're giving them probabilities or, statistics or it should go this way. Because when you're working with market money, we think it's going to go this way. We think it's going to work. This is what the dividends have been paying, right? This is what the REIT says it will pay. This is what the structured notes should work out, but they have buffers and barriers as well, right? Shoulda, coulda, woulda, and it's great, and they have more potential and growth potential and everything else, but there's no that bottom line of guaranteed lifetime income rider.
It's not there.
Or even another company has a family endowment rider, which is a death benefit rider. However, it's dollar for dollar withdrawal privilege. So I view that as pretty much a home run too. All right. So just having the conversation of understanding what the annuity company is saying, this is a guaranteed lifetime income rider. This is a guaranteed family endowment rider. This is a guaranteed 200% roll up for living needs benefits. They put that in contractual writing for a reason. And that's because they're held to very strict limits by all the departments of insurance, by the National Association of Insurance Commissioners. They have to have a lot of money in reserves to be able to say the G word, and that's what we're talking about here. Now, I'm not saying it, but what I will say is if you're looking for a guaranteed lifetime income rider to provide lifetime for you and your spouse for the rest of your life, or you're looking for some other guaranteed family endowment riders, whatever it might be, they're available and sometimes they're appropriate in your situation. The less money you have, the more appropriate it could be. Now, if you're worth, $5 or $10 million, you might just feel like you have, way more than enough to do other things. But I got to tell you something, when you pick something like that and it could be either for you and your spouse or for future generations, that's why we have these conversations. And as an advisor, I can say we've got two sides of the business. We got the brokerage side, we got the insurance side, but they marry when it comes to financial planning because you have to look at things as a whole as what are the needs of the person.
The whole idea behind an annuity, and if you compare it back and forth between an annuity, which is a contract, and an investment, which is not, okay? You put money in, and the insurance company pays you back every month, and then you say, well, you're just paying me my money back. But there's another caveat to that, Mark, and that is that when your money runs out, the insurance company keeps paying you. And you don't get that with a mutual fund or a stock or a structured note. That's pretty unique in the annuity world, isn't it?
It is, because there's a difference. When I first got in the business, these things didn't exist. There was, we used to run these different illustrations with fixed annuities, and fixed index annuities just came around. So 25 years ago, when I started doing these insurance products, we had fixed annuities, and then we had these very rare, brand new fixed index annuities. All right, they were fairly new and a few years old. Okay, but we didn't really know a whole lot about them yet. But there was no such thing as an income rider or a guaranteed lifetime income rider. What we had were immediate annuities. So a lot of times you'll hear an advisor say SPIA, which stands for a single premium immediate annuity. A SPIA, or single premium immediate annuity, is basically the same thing as a pension you got from work. It's a guaranteed income that happens through you or survivor benefit, like a spouse, if you pick that option. And that's what it is. It's immediate, doesn't count as an asset. But they created these lifetime income riders called guaranteed lifetime income riders, in the last several years, over a decade ago, basically. And they get better and better each year, okay? And what I mean by that is just the way that they're structuring the contracts, even the payout features seem to be better. We can research all this online with some of the software that I use. I literally am very transparent and share all this information with people, okay? It's important to understand the difference between an immediate annuity and a deferred annuity. The immediate annuity is just a pension, just counts as income. But a deferred annuity is your asset. It grows based on the parameters of if it's a fixed annuity or if it's a fixed index annuity based on the indexing. And then you have this guaranteed lifetime income rider that when you turn it on, it tells you how much income you're going to get. If it's set up for you and your spouse, it's guaranteed for the rest of your life based on the guaranteed lifetime income rider of use, okay? And if you run out of money, it continues to pay you and your spouse, if that's how you set it up, for the rest of your lives. And they're like, okay, I'm not putting all my money in this. No, you don't take all your liquid money and put it into an annuity. You use it for a concept and a structure. Now, if we do enough of those types of things, then we can look at brokerage a little differently. I feel like I could take a little bit more risk with it. We can look at our pure equity model, which is doing fantastic. And that's the kind of conversation I like to have with people. If we do enough over here, then I feel like I could be a little bit more aggressive over here.
Yeah, it is interesting. If you were to walk into your lunchroom at work and people were kind of talking at a table and they're all kind of hushed tones and they were all talking about this stock that half the world is into and it's breaking records every year, and you go, well, what is that stock? And then, maybe they tell you what the stock is and you want to invest. Well, we're telling you that over the past couple of years, as baby boomers have moved into retirement, annuities have broken records every single year. So what is it that is making this happen? It is baby boomers want income. They want Social Security. If they don't have a pension, they want income. And this is one of the options that they are exploring and many are using to get the income in retirement. Wouldn't it be worth it just to have the conversation? Mark is there for you. Mark is here for you now. MoreToRetire.com. That is the website. Start there. Learn more about Mark and the 5 steps that we talk about. MoreToRetire.com or 984-300-1984. 984-300-1984. Get a date on a calendar and let's talk through what your concerns are about retirement. One of the big concerns right now is how many jobs that are going away. We have seen the unemployment rate start to inch up. And over the years, these past couple of years, we've all been waiting for this recession to happen. But the one thing that hasn't happened is the unemployment rate hasn't really gone up. It's starting to happen. And you're seeing these layoffs headlines, Salesforce and Intel and Microsoft and Amazon and Verizon letting thousands of people go. And this really affects you, Mark, because somebody may come to you and they're 59 years old, they're 60 years old, they plan to work a couple more years, and then this happens. That long-term employment that they had comes to an end. So what do we do? Do we say, go down to Starbucks, put on the green apron and go to it? Or the orange apron and go to Home Depot and go to it and work another couple of years? Or how is this, the sudden loss of a job 3 to 5 years before retirement? What happens in that conference room conversation?
Oh, yeah. So I try to prepare ahead of time. If a client gives me some time to work with them beforehand, it's very helpful. I mean, I had a client that had gotten laid off, and then it just didn't seem like the prospects were going to work. But we started making plans 2 years before it happened. And I told this particular client, I said, let's just be prepared for it, because I think that you can get around this. Let's just have that conversation. And that's what we do. We prepare ahead of time. So we want to prepare ahead of time, prepare our fields like the Bible says, and truthfully, water that seed. So just be really on top of things. Let's make sure that if you really want to retire, if some little road bump happens, that we can be prepared for it. Well, if you haven't met me and this has already happened to you and you're below 59 and a half, well, your 401k is now available to you to do something totally different with it.
Okay. If
you're already 59 and a half, there's no excuse for you not to have a conversation with people about rolling your 401k, because 401k, they're very restrictive plans, right? You're only availed to what the plan says you could use. Now, if you start rolling it to individual accounts and stuff like that, you can allow yourself to have access to things you didn't have before. Maybe you could set up that income plan through the guaranteed lifetime income rider with an annuity. Maybe you could take some of this towards brokerage assets, look at some of the unique things that we have that other folks might not have access to, because we have a whole bundle of different things that we like to do in-house, right? All of these things are available to you at 59 and a half. And if you're before 59 and a half, you're younger than that, but you've been laid off, those plans are available to you. And we should have conversations, strategic conversations about what we should do with this and how we should be prepared. And look, hey, maybe you need some money out before we make some decisions too. That's another conversation we can have. So, because liquidity is important. We just talked about it, Randy. It's really, really important. And then if you're 55 and you're laid off, and you think, you know what, I think I could make retirement work, but I got all these qualified funds. Well, the Internal Revenue Code has something called 72T. All right. So that's another conversation we could have as well. That has to do with taking distributions until for 5 years, and they have to be equal distributions. But it's a way where you might not have to pay the 10% penalty to the IRS. But again, you have to stay within the Internal Revenue Code. So again, there's so many different things we could look at and do differently. But I want to open you up to the world that you don't have access to.
It seems to me, Mark, that you got to kind of take this in chunks and priorities. It's like, first of all, you got to say, okay, where's my next paycheck coming from? I got to live. And you're figuring out how you're going to pay your bills and how you're going to live. And then you start to take it in little chunks and say, okay, how can we get you to 62 so you can file for Social Security? Then the big one, how do we get you to 65 where you can get to Medicare? How are we going to handle that? Because that's a big expense for people who retire early, is getting health care. And so these are all parts of the conversation. If this has happened to you, or it's happened to some of your friends at work, and you see what's happened to them and you wonder, well, are they coming for me? Okay. If that's in your mind right now, now is the time, as Mark has said, if you were to have a conversation first and say, what if this happens? Let's build that into the plan. Give Mark a call. Give us a look on the website. Moretoretire.com is the website. Moretoretire.com. Just spell it right out. There you will see the 5 steps to more. And if you want to give Mark a call and get a date on a calendar, it's 984-300-1984. 984-300-1984. And Mark, this might seem like a good time to go through those 5 steps, because as somebody says, okay, what do I do now? What do I need to know? All right, let's talk about that, because your first step is really make an appointment and let's just listen. Let's just sit down and find out who you are, what you want to do, and what you've saved. Talk to me about those 5 steps.
Sure. So I'm very open to how long it takes for a person to get to the point of doing business. It doesn't happen overnight for everyone, okay? There are some people that come and meet with me on the first time and they want to do something. And I sometimes I have to pull back and say, let's just, take it step by step. Mm-hmm. But the first step is a treetop view, okay? So you can do a treetop view, and you can combine step 2 if you want to with discovering your retirement desires. And how do you combine those 2 steps? You just basically say, you know what, I'm really ready to talk to somebody. Hey, Mark, I'm going to set up an appointment with you. You can go straight to my website. You can comment in the bottom if you just scroll to the bottom of the front page, and you can enter in some data and say, I want to hear from you. Give me your phone number, and then also say, hey, is it okay if I send my brokerage statements to your secure upload button, which is in the top right-hand corner of every page when you're on my website, okay? If you do all those things, then what I can do is as we set the appointment, I can run a financial report for you. It's a Morningstar report, and it'll identify several things that we want to know about. Are you taking the appropriate risk as opposed to, maybe we should reduce risk in a situation? Who knows? But we like to have those conversations. So step 3 is really personalizing your plan, getting down to the nitty-gritty and making sure that we can get you set up for retirement, because that's why you're talking to me. You're talking to me about what I want to do now, what I want to do in retirement. Maybe you are retired. We could talk about retirement, and are your goals being met by who you're working with right now? And then, of course, we want to work with your needs and wants. And then, of course, after you become a client through step 3, what are we going to do, Randy? We believe in always understanding there has to be changes. So adjustments and changes are key. They're paramount. And I mentioned on the show many times, the little book, little short story, Who Moved My Cheese? If you don't think you need to change something, read that book. And then last but not least, ongoing support. We've got a team. There's 4 of us here. It's me, my wife, Amy, my oldest daughter, Ariana, and then Chris Carney. And Chris does a great job here. So look, we're here for you. And then if you want to meet my other daughters, I got 3 other daughters. All right. Ariana's 25, Callista's 20, Finley is 13, and Stella is 8. And I love them all dearly. So yeah, this is a family place. Sometimes they'll be poking their heads in here, trying to get in the little cookie jar where we offer them to clients. Sometimes the kids get in there too. Okay.
Well, we would love to have the opportunity to talk to you about your retirement. If you're getting into that mode and you're starting to think about it, you see your friends retire, or there's something going on at work and you're just a little unsure about what the future is at work, and you're a couple of years before retirement and you're getting nervous. Everybody understands it's not unusual. Let's be proactive about this and have a plan just in case. Here's the number. Here's the website, 984-300-1984. 984-300-1984. Or again, more2retire.com. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, what if you don't like the stock market? Okay, can you retire and not have money in the stock market? Do you need the stock market? Let's talk through that one. Coming up next on the Marc Oslar Retirement Experience.
A simple piece of paper. It's something we use every day. For the most part, it does what it's designed to do. It sits there flat on your desk as a placeholder for information. But with a couple strategic folds, suddenly your flat piece of paper becomes an airplane and flies across the room. Your 401k is kind of like that flat piece of paper. It just sits there as a placeholder for your money. Marc Oslar can show you those strategic moves to take your 401k from just sitting there to creating the income you need for retirement. Call today for a free no-obligation meeting, 984-300-1984. That's 984-300-1984. Or online at more2retire.com.
Welcome back to the Marc Oslar Retirement Experience. Online, more2retire.com. Give Mark a call at 984-300-1984. If it's time to talk about your retirement, don't put this off. At the beginning of the show, Mark said, you know what? We get a brand new year. People got a fresh start. They said that they've been wanting to do this forever and talk about their retirement with a financial advisor, and they don't do it. Well, this is the time. We turn the calendar. Now's the time to make that appointment. Give Mark a call. It's no cost, no obligation. Let's talk about what you're in for. 984-300-1984. A lot of different kinds of people come through the door. Some people are really into the stock market, and they've done very well with it, so they're very content to continue on in their retirement. Other people, not so much. I never bought a stock. I don't know anything about the market. I don't know that I want to be that person in retirement. This is a new study from Allianz, and it says 67% of the people in this study said if the stock market hits a record high this year, it is not going to affect me at all. So do you see a lot of people that walk through the door and say, Mark, I don't want anything to do with that. I don't want the stock market. I don't like risk. I don't like the up and down. First of all, do you see people like that? And does that make retirement planning easier, or does it make it harder?
I think that if a person doesn't want anything to do with the stock market, sometimes it could be a little easier. but I do usually try to open them up to some risk, because it doesn't hurt to have some risk, a little healthy appetite. But some people are just dead set against it. So there's people that just have money sitting in the bank. They're scared. They got money in CDs and things like that. And truthfully, I just want to help you wherever you're at. So, could an annuity be a good fit for someone like that? Of course. But you don't want to take all the liquid money and put it into an annuity. You want to use it for strategic purposes, for income. We talk about here, again, a preservation, income, and growth. And if the person is so conservative, they don't want money in the market, will that help them? Well, if we can reach your financial goals, we can reach your financial goals with a combination of risk, and preservation at the same time, or just full-on preservation. Now, I've had clients where they just want to do all, full-on just risk. If you have enough money, we can make that work too. But again, the highs of the market is sometimes it doesn't change the person's perspective or their potential for retirement. So this is a very important conversation to have. Not everybody out there are just savvy investors just slinging money around knowing what they're doing. But I'll be honest with you, in the market, we participate off of the gains. We're not making the market. So what we're trying to do is find good averages for people and make some nice returns for folks. But again, I want to have a strategic plan for people. So you don't have to put all your money with me. It's not necessary. But if you use me for a strategic purpose, whether it's for some of our brokerage products, for whether it's some of the annuity products that we might have, again, there's a lot of different reasons why people need to retire, and they want to retire with conservative money, like money in the bank, right? Well, an annuity is going to be very similar. It's just, again, we don't want to take all your liquid money and put it in there.
Well, when you think about it, there's only a few different places to put your money. I mean, there's the banks, there's the stock market, there's the insurance companies, and then there's real estate. I mean, really, that's about it. I mean, with banks, you've got CDs and money markets. In the stock market, you've got stocks, bonds, and all that goes along with that. The insurance company has annuities, and the real estate, that's going to be REITs and rentals and things like that. So you do have some choices as far as categories are concerned when it comes to that, and different areas of risk. But I mean, I don't want to be a landlord in my retirement years. I don't think I want to buy a rental. I could see myself maybe doing a REIT, but people might think that has some risk that's associated with it as well. So in order to eliminate risk completely, that does seem to me, Mark, when we talk about PIG, we talk about preservation, income, and growth, that does hamper that growth section a little bit. But as you said, if somebody doesn't need all that growth, then we probably have something to talk about here, don't we?
Yeah, because the reason why there's different phases in your life, right? You have accumulation. You're trying to make as much money as possible to get to this pile of money that you can figure out how to retire with. Well, once you get to that point, or you're getting to that point, you start putting on those preservation tactics. Mm-hmm. So you're thinking, okay, preservation and distribution, right? You want to preserve what you worked your whole life for and distribute it properly to yourself, and eventually to, if you have beneficiaries, if you don't use all your money, distribute it properly to your beneficiaries, with no probate, things like that. So again, direct beneficiaries are really important. So a lot of times we'll say, okay, do you have direct beneficiaries on your insurance products, your annuities? Do you have direct beneficiaries on your stock market stuff? Do you have direct beneficiaries at the bank, transfer on death, that kind of stuff? All these are really important. But again, those two phases are very different: accumulation and then preservation and distribution. And that's where it all lines up: preservation, income, and growth. We want to make sure we preserve. We want to make sure we get you the right amount of income, preparing for taxes and inflation. And then what's a good sensible growth? Because you're not trying to make the most money possible, but I don't mind taking some risk for you to try and make up for that on the back end, as long as we have longevity with the market money.
You're listening to the Marc Oslar Retirement Experience. Online, you can find Marc at moreToRetire.com. There is a place for you, even if you hate the stock market when it comes to retirement. And there are some of you that feel just fine about it. Some of you feel like, I'll dip my toe in that water just a little bit. And others like, I want, it's a hot stove. I'm not even going to touch that. And that's okay. There's a place for everybody. Let's figure out what your place is in retirement. MoreToRetire.com is the website, MoreToRetire.com. And you can also give Mark a call, 984-300-1984. It's a no-cost, no-obligation look at your retirement. It's really a conversation. 984-300-1984. We've had some conversations on the show here about a lot of people want to try to do their retirement planning on their own. They're DIYers. Some people are just born for that, and a lot of you can do that. Others don't want to have anything to do with it. I just want to give it to somebody and let them deal with it, okay? So what about when we talk about DIYers, one of the things that they say I didn't do right was I wasn't ready for the unexpected event. The roof was leaking. I had to buy a new car. The water heater went out. These things are still going to happen to you in retirement. There are headwinds in retirement. There's the stock market, there's taxes, there's inflation, there's prices, but there's also the unexpected event. This Center for Retirement Research says one of the things that you might consider doing is set aside 10% for unexpected expenses. Talk to me about that, Mark. You got to write this stuff in, and sometimes these are the things that don't occur to us in black and white, but they got to have a line item, don't they?
Of course. Well, do you own a home? We know that with a home, there's always stuff to do. So it's always good to be prepared for those types of things. What kind of fund do we want to build up for some repairs and things like that? And just over time, you're going to have to change things about your home. If you don't, it's going to start to fall apart.
Right.
All right. It's just a part of things. Same thing with your car. A car always needs stuff done. You have people that'll complain, oh, they're trying to get over on me. But look, the truth of the matter is we all need an oil change. We all need rotation balance. We all need an alignment. And then there are other things that happen. Some things just occur. Your alternator might go out. Other things can happen. And you just want to be prepared. Hey, I've got the money to pay for this. You probably don't want to put it on a credit card to get hit with interest. So again, just prepared for certain things like this in life, or maybe you want to help out a grandkid or your kid. You just want to help them with something. Hey, that's perfectly fine. That would probably make them really happy. Well, that's another place. Hey, if they need help, hey, you got the money sitting on the sideline, you can help them out.
When am I going to get done parenting? You don't, folks. I'll tell you, you don't. You're in your 60s, your 70s, your 80s. You're still going to be parenting, and you're still going to be helping. It is absolutely true. You're listening to the Marc Oslar Retirement Experience, and online you can find Mark at more2retire.com. If it's time to talk about your retirement and your questions and get your concerns out there on the table, let's do that. And let's give you some more confidence as you walk into this important part of your life. Let's get it all nailed down for you. 984-300-1984 is a no-cost, no-obligation meeting to talk about your retirement. It's really a conversation saying, this is where I live, this is what we do, this is what I've done, and this is what I want to do in retirement. Okay, and then once we got all that, now let's figure out the numbers. It's 984-300-1984 or more2retire.com. There's investments, and then there's the tax conversation, and there's all sorts of other conversation about what I'm going to do in retirement. And then there's a conversation about what's going to happen if I leave this world and there's still money left over. That's really has to be a part of the retirement conversation. You're going to hear now from Ken Ricci. And Ken, he's a billionaire actually. He's now in his 60s. And he is very, very open with his family about his estate planning. And as a matter of fact, they have family meetings regularly about it.
We've chosen as a family not to disguise and not to hide from our wealth. And so we have family meetings every quarter, and we're passing on wealth at this point in time. I'm not waiting till I die. I want to watch my kids enjoy their wealth. And so we're passing on wealth to them now, and we're helping them manage through it, and we're helping them navigate. Every year, once a year at the big meeting, I walk through the estate plan. What's going to happen? Like, where does the money go? How does it get there?
Now, I know what you're thinking. You're saying, okay, he's a billionaire. That's what they do. I don't have to do that because I'm not a billionaire. Yes, you do. You really do have to have this conversation. I don't know if it happens every quarter with your family, but Mark, talk to me about when we eventually get around to this. The dominoes continue to fall, and they say, now we have to talk about this money if you're not here. What does that look like to you?
Yeah, this is something that, is close to home and something that I've been prepared for as an advisor and these conversations. Ken Ricci called me the other day and he said, hey, Mark, I want you to be a 2% heir. I said, of course. Yeah, I'll take it. Absolutely. But no, honestly, The truth of the matter is I love doing this for a living, but we have to have the conversation about death because it's going to happen. So the question is, do you want to help or start giving away some things before you die? And these are real conversations to have. So what does that look like for you? Also, how are you going to leave your money when you do pass? I can tell you that about 15 to 20% of the time, that can change over the course of our relationship. It can change drastically or just slightly. And these are the conversations that come up. I just want to do what you want to do with your portfolio. So obviously, I want to make sure that we're accomplishing what you want to accomplish in life, your dreams, your goals, your aspirations. Does it all take place after you pass away? Maybe not. Let's have that conversation. It's really important to understand, if you really are intentional about leaving money. But then there's also clients of mine that say, I want to leave a bunch of money to charity. Well, let me tell you something. If you really want to piss off the IRS, you can leave your IRA money to charity. Oh, boy. Yeah, because why? If it's a 501c3, they have no taxable event there.
Oh, boy.
But again, please don't come after me for that one. No, truthfully, we have these conversations because we want to make sure that we're doing everything we possibly can. On the estate planning side, we involve the right attorneys. If we want to talk about taxable events, we involve the accountants and CPAs. Whatever we need to do to build your plan, we're going to do that. We're going to be a part of it. We're going to want to support you, and we're going to help you as much as we possibly can. But let's have the conversation now about if you're going to leave money to heirs, how do you want to go about it, and could that change over time? Of course it could.
My mom was really open with me and my brother, and she said, I put a will together, and you both are executors, and here is what's going to happen if I die. She didn't say anything about the money. She didn't say anything about the amount. She just said it's going to be split 50-50. And that's basically all we knew. So when she passed, then we found out what the money was. And do you find that people are really open with their family about what the money is, or do they kind of keep it close to the vest? I imagine that's kind of very personal according to what your family dynamic is.
It has to do everything with family dynamics. So I'll say that more often than not, the kids don't know exactly what the parents have. And then there are some cases where there's, maybe one of the kids knows, what's going on, because at some point when the person ages up, I say, maybe we should involve someone here, because we want to stay on the up and up and make sure that we're doing what's best for the person. So if I notice there's a little slippage, or maybe they think that it's possible it could happen in the next few years, then we start to involve a kid or two. Now, that could come with a caveat. Yeah, they might not want to tell everybody, and I get that too. So just having the understanding and conversation of who should be involved and how should they be involved. And I'm always watching to make sure everybody has their best interest at heart. It's important to know, what a person wants out of a situation, because you know what? When that person's alive, that money does not belong to the beneficiaries. It's not until they pass away.
Yeah.
So we've got to keep our hands out of that bucket. It's up to the person that's leaving the money, how they want to leave that money.
When it comes to legacy planning, the one thing that I think that we all want to do is make sure that everything's lined out properly and it doesn't cause fights after you leave this world. And that's what the paperwork is supposed to do. And, once you're gone, there might be fighting. But if you can outline everything as best as you possibly can, that may help the situation. Give Mark a call. Let's talk through all the aspects of your retirement. And this is one of them. 984-300-1984, 984-300-1984, or moretoretire.com. A couple of minutes left here. I wanted to throw this one at the end. There was a study done a couple of years ago from Northwest Mutual, and it says that if you use a financial advisor, you could potentially double your retirement savings. Wow, you got some power there, Mark. Do you believe that? I mean, is that accurate? Double your retirement savings? That seems kind of far-fetched to me. What do you think?
I think it's possible. I wouldn't say, hey, this is what I'm going to do for you. But no, truthfully, it is possible in the sense that a lot of folks will undervalue the idea of using a financial advisor because, I don't want to pay that fee. Why? Why should I pay that fee? I know how to invest. Great. Go ahead and invest. But I can tell you, if you pay the fee, we'll try to save you on the other stuff. Obviously, we want to save you money on the internal expense ratio, because if you're going to pay us a fee, we want to save you some money there. but we could probably do some stuff that you didn't know about. And I think you'd be quite surprised by some of our internal stuff, our internal programs, and the things we've accomplished. We can share some statistics with you that I think might help you realize that maybe the fee is worth it, okay? It can absolutely be worth it, but there's also something else that comes along with a financial advisor, that you could potentially have a more comfortable night's sleep on your pillow knowing that the advisor's looking over things and answering your questions. If you have an advisor and they're answering your questions, they're getting the money in the pocket for you, they're doing all the things that they need to do, then yeah, that could absolutely add up to something that makes it more comfortable for you. So again, if you're talking to an advisor, you're interested in an advisor, just make sure that you feel like they're meeting your needs. And if they are, you could absolutely accomplish much greater things than not having a financial advisor.
Could you get lucky with a stock market pick? Sure. Can you beat the market year after year consistently? Maybe not. Do you know all the ins and outs of tax planning and legacy planning and all that we talk about here on the show? Maybe not. There's a lot of information out there on the internet, I know, and it can be very helpful. But at the same time, year after year, week after week, we bring these stories to you, and many times it's about a DIYer, a do-it-yourselfer, and he says, I got a lot right, but this is what I got wrong. This is what I missed, and this is what hurt me. And we don't want you to be in that situation. We want you to get the help that you need, the help that you deserve. Give Mark a call, give him a look on the website, and let's have the conversation and see if it's a good fit. MoreToRetire.com. Just spell it right out, MoreToRetire.com. And there you can see the website. You'll see the 5 steps to more. There's a place down at the bottom of the page for you to put some information in there, and that'll give Mark an indication of what you're worried about, concerned about, and what we can talk about when it comes to your retirement meeting. Or you can skip all that and just say, I'm going to call Mark and get that appointment. It's 984-300-1984. 984-300-1984. That is all the time we have for this week. We hope you have a great weekend. Enjoy the football, and we will be here next week. We hope you will be too on the Marc Oslar Retirement Experience.
Insurance products are offered through the insurance business Marc Oslar Retirement Experience. Marc Oslar Retirement Experience is also an investment advisory practice that offers products and services through Impact Partnership Wealth LLC, a registered investment advisor. IPW does not offer insurance products. The insurance products offered by Marc Oslar Retirement Experience are not subject to investment advisor requirements. Investing involves risks, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing carrier. This radio podcast is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be considered as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual situation. Marc Oslar Retirement Experience is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during the show shall constitute legal or tax advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein are provided by third parties that have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Marc Oslar Retirement Experience. Market Guard is a firm that provides investment signals as well as portfolio allocation recommendations for a wide variety of model portfolios. Market Guard does not offer advice or enter into fiduciary relationships. Please remember that converting an employer plan account to a Roth IRA is a taxable event. Increased taxable income from the Roth IRA conversion may have several consequences. Be sure to consult with a qualified tax advisor before making any decisions regarding your IRA.